Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Hey, do me a favor. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for the notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you do that 5-star. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Got a great guest today, good friend of mine, uh, Iraqi vet, Marine Sergeant Chad Shelters.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, Chad, man? What's happening, brother?
Not much. You said you're going to be in town and you wanted to do a podcast. I said, I'm in.
Hell yeah, man. So give me a little background on your military.
Like right from the rip or?
Yeah. How old were you when you went in?
Went in at 18 right out of high school. Went to Paris Island, did all that fun mumbo jumbo. Got stationed in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh, shit.
The armpit of America.
The armpit of America.
Yep, for heavy artillery. From there, went to Camp Lejeune. Did my UDP to Okinawa. Came back. Did CAX during 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Freaked the shit out of my parents because when the planes hit, we were supposed to be on a plane coming home. You know, in typical military fashion, you're standing around waiting all the time. So you're like, okay, this is all bullshit. They're just fucking with us, finding a way to occupy the time. And then we're like, at the time I was a corporal, and they're like, hey, get your fire team together. Here's some ammo. And we're like, what the fuck? Here's your ROE. If it moves, kill it. We're at an abandoned Air Force base in America. They're like, if they don't stop, blow it up. Son of a bitch. This is real. And we're all like looking at each other, like trying a straight face. When we get away from all the higher ups, we're like, what the fuck is going on here? And literally almost like within 2 hours, I almost took this guy out who was rolling up with a fuel truck. We're waving him down. He's still rolling. And the sergeant was like in charge of us, is like, lock and load. I'm like, oh fuck, this is it. Damn. And the guy like hits the brakes. He's like, oh, he had his headphones on, not paying attention to us. Because we were just guarding an abandoned Air Force base with a whole bunch of abandoned airliners.
Really?
So then we get back to handed out desert camis, and they told us, okay, you're not going to Afghanistan. So we get back to Lejeune. We got put on QRF, like quick reactionary force, where your life is miserable for 2 weeks. You don't go anywhere. Your gear's all on a bus in a parking lot. And every now and then they'll wake you up in the middle of the night, put you on a plane, fly you around for a minute, land you to see how fast you guys got everything done. I mean, your weapons, ammo, everything you own is on there. And you're running down the street getting dressed.
No shit.
It's almost like a movie. You think it's so nuts, but it's true.
Well, let's jump back a little bit. How old were you when you first got involved with the military?
18. And I went, spent my 19th birthday in boot camp.
Really?
I was the first battalion to graduate in 2000.
Now, you have other family members that were in the Marines as well, or
uncles in Korea, twin uncles that were in Korea in the Marine Corps. My whole family's military. I had great uncle, you know, Army Air Force or Army Air Corps at the time. He was a bombardier.
Okay.
My grandpa was Korea. Had one of my uncles was on the invasion of Normandy. Got part of his foot blown off, had half a foot. Like, I never understood it when I was little. My grandpa finally told me why he had a platform shoe, because he was missing part of his foot.
No way.
So, like, it runs deep.
Yeah.
So
that's cool though, man, that you come from a long line. My father wasn't military, but my grandfather was. He was Army. But I don't know how accurate this actually is, but he was stationed on a sub in the Army.
Could have been signals.
Yeah, I don't know. So
intelligence.
He maybe, but I was 18 when he passed away, so I didn't really get that chance to talk to him until, but when I joined, I was a little bit older when I went into the Army and stuff like that. But for him, I know he was a proud man of that shit, man. And I got a copy of his picture. It's like those old school oil painting looking ones. Man, it's badass, dude. It's badass.
I can't even explain the coloring, but it's different, but awesome different.
Yeah. They don't do that shit no more.
I got my uncles are the best ones. My grandpa's was in black and white, some of the uncles. But the uncles on my dad's side, they're in the Marines. Theirs were like that, where their cheeks are like kind of peachish and red.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They probably kicked their own ass when I see the picture.
Right.
And they're smiling. I'm like, who the hell smiles in their boot camp picture?
So let's go back a little bit more. So you go in, you would you say 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what your parents think of this?
Totally against it.
Totally against it.
Well, they knew I was going to, but they wanted me to go to college, and
Mm,
typical 18-year-old fashion. I come home and I was like, yeah, I joined the Marine Corps. And they're like,
Yeah.
what? And I was like, oh, and I got a tattoo.
yeah.
And they were real happy.
Um oh God. What I was gonna say is how bad did the recruiter lie to you? Because I got thrown some serious bullshit. Like, oh man, you can get this, you can get that, you can get this.
I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but he told me it behooved me to lie about the concussions I had in football. I got one right before when I went and signed up, and he's like, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. So I didn't. Moment of truth comes around, didn't say nothing. Somehow or another, my records came up, and they saw I had a knee injury and a head injury. Oh my God. I got delayed at boot camp. I got to go to the MRP, Medical Rehabilitation Platoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to sit there and contemplate suck starting a shotgun literally for like, I think it was like 6 weeks, because I had to beg them. I literally went in there with tears in my eyes. They're like, we're sending you home. I'm like, for what? Like, go back. Let me go back to training. I came in here to do this. I'm not going back to this town that I was fighting to get the fuck out of. So they ended up letting me stay, but they, instead of going in for infantry, they ended up sending me to artillery, since I lied, as they put it. I was like, I didn't lie. I just wasn't honest about it.
So your MOS was artillery?
Heavy artillery.
Man.
I went in, I signed up as a 0331 machine gunner because, well, why not? I mean, young, dumb, let's have some belt fud fun.
Okay. When so you graduate, and everything, and you get done with the boot and all that stuff, and you go, where was your schooling? Was it at the same location?
For my MOS?
Yeah.
No, I was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So I went from Parris Island, came home on leave, did recruiting for get the extra 10 days because it was around the holidays. So I got to stay home 10 more days. Went back to Camp Lejeune, got to be a Geiger Tiger, had to do my ring or MCI, Marine Combat Instructor or Instruction. MCT, my bad. You tell it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And then you go from there, you go to your school. And the problem is with going to your school, I sat there idle for 3 weeks because when we got there, the class had just picked up. We didn't have enough for another class. So until some more recruits show up for the training, you're on an Army base where they have a boot camp. And you're just sitting here listening to their drill instructors chew them out, and they're trying to yell at you. And you're like, dude, seriously, go fuck yourself. I'm a private and I'm not listening to your sergeant ass. Fuck off.
Oh, man. All right. So how many years were you in total?
4 years, 6 months. I got extended for Iraq.
Okay.
I was getting ready to get out, and they're like, hey, no, Sergeant, you got a one-way ticket. We're like, where are we going? Can't tell you. We didn't know where we were going. We just got on a commercial airliner with all our gear, flak, and rifle, and we're like, this is weird.
Yeah.
We're going to Afghanistan, right? No. No one's like, everybody's like, no, you're not going there. And we're like, where the fuck are we going? No one knew until we touched down. We were in Kuwait. We're like, what are we doing in Kuwait? Because we see the airport, we see the sign, Kuwait. Middle of the night, they shuttle us on a bus, take us in the middle of the desert to a tent city that we had to help set up. Told us to stand by in this tent. Mind you, you get there, you think, it's not that bad. It's February in the desert, right? It's got to be warm. Nah. You see everybody all huddled up around each other. Like
fucking cold.
Oh, yeah, because they're like, don't unpack anything, just wait. So we're all like back to back, holding our stuff, curled over in this tent, like freezing. Next thing you know, sun's coming up. They're like, oh, we forgot about you guys. No shit. So we trucked 2 sea bags. At the time, I had a crew serve. I carried a 240 Golf. So I was carrying that with everything else, humping that across the whole compound. Find out we're attached to First Recon out of Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
We were their direct support for artillery.
Really?
We're like, yeah, right, whatever. And they're running by in their combat boots, black, silkies and beanies. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I gotta tell you, man, like I couldn't imagine just like not being told anything and just being shoved and
Oh yeah.
taken somewhere. Like in the back of your head, what were you thinking? Like, what the hell, man? Like, were you scared? Were you thinking of anything? Like, holy shit, man.
Wasn't I wouldn't say scared. I would say just kind of standing by. Just it was a just pissed off feeling. You're like,
Yeah.
just tell us where the fuck we're doing. But everything was top secret. You can't say nothing. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're like teaching us Arabic, like phrases, and we're writing them on cards to put in our flak jackets, and people are starting to show up and starting to put like more units are showing up.
Yeah, bring this a little closer to you, Bubba.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
So units are starting to show up more. I mean, we had the Welsh. I traded a Welsh tanker, one of my PT shirts for one of his that said like it was dude, it was cool. So they were trading us, like the British were trading us rank insignias for some of ours. I'm like, shit, I'll give them my old corporal ones, because any good Marine always carries a rank up and a rank down, because most likely I'm getting demoted,
right?
Because I'm my mouth. So
you've always been a fucking mouth, brother.
Fuck yeah. I mean, no filter.
Yeah, a couple cocktails, man.
Tell you what I think.
It's open season.
Yes, sir. So no, but it was more of a anxiety. It was like,
yeah,
not a bad one, but it's like you felt like your gears were turning, but you were going nowhere. You're wondering like,
yeah,
what are we doing? So then they were like, they had us do a combat rolls on our truck, get them all set up. We were there for on and off for about 3 weeks.
What year was this that you got there?
2003.
2003.
February. I want to say it was so damn long ago. It was like 17th or 19th. We touched down.
Yeah.
In Kuwait, drove up to the border. We were at Camp Matilda. We were getting mortars from the Iraqis launching over at us. And we were all just kind of joking about it. We're like, yeah, dude, if I get hit with one of those, I get to go home.
Yeah.
And it was that's your mindset, because you're like, you couldn't have a radio.
Yeah.
Like they didn't tell us to pack CDs, anything. You had no outside communication. So we literally went to the running joke with our unit was this one guy we had. He just retired recently. Mark Kamensky. He used to have a puppet show. He used to do cutouts and like do voices for everybody on the wall. And
really,
one day our first sergeant walks in, he goes, "Who the fuck is that fuck stick?" And it was him doing an impersonation of him, and we're all like, "Oh, we're fucked." But like that's the stupid shit you do, where we would be like playing a bull in the ring, gun versus gun section, until we got shut down. And then next thing I know, they're waking us up, pack your shit, your sea bags, going on a quad con, be down at the gun park at 03. So we get down there like, yeah, we're rolling. Rolling where? We're going over the border. Okay. Get down to the gun park. Set on the trucks. 09. Still sitting in the trucks at the gun park. We're rolling. Okay, we're not rolling. Stand by, stand by. Next day comes. We're rolling. We're all like laying there. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Same old bullshit. Squad leaders up. We got to have, we're going to have our safety brief. We're like, okay, maybe. Next thing I know, they're like, we're going to be leaving tomorrow morning. Okay, so we stay down at the gun park again. Well, at that time, trucks fire up. We're like, okay, what's going on? We roll to the LOD. It was just like a giant berm. And all hell just opens up. We just start like, people are shelling. We get through, we like set up and just start shelling. So people are coming through with us. So like we literally were the tip of the spear with First Recon, and they'd move, we'd fire for them. When the other artillery units would start to show up, cover where we're at, we would move with them. So like anything you were hearing on TV, we were over 2 days ahead.
Wow.
So literally the first time I got to sleep was after about 96 hours. You stayed up just because your adrenaline. I mean, middle of the day when you were shelling these things, it was like black just from the gun smoke, and it was.
So this is the beginning of the invasion.
Yes, and mind you, we have maps of maps were issued out. Did not have names of anything. They just had numbers. So you're looking at the map and you don't even know where the fuck you're at.
Right.
Only way you'd know is on the highway to hell, highway 2. there would be signs in English and Arabic. So you'd know, like, okay, we're close to Nasra. Close, because I knew we went through the south, and I was like, man, this is Iraq. This sucks. Because it's like desert, nothing. But the farther you went north, the richer and plusher it got. These like mansions made with marble, concrete. It was crazy. Palm trees, hay fields. It was just nuts. But down there was poverty. And like they're telling everybody, oh, it's weapons of mass destruction. You're like, the fuck it is. Like, what weapons? Like when we were down south, all you see is they tell us before we go over, we're going to be using a German technique. It's called the Blitzkrieg. We're just literally going to hit them hard, and you're going to come up against Russian equipment, Russian weapons, Russian tactics. And the hell we did. The regular army didn't want to fight. They just wanted to surrender. Half of them didn't have boots. So we're like, what are we shooting them for? Well, it finds out it's the Royal Republican Guard. They're the ones shooting at us. So they're the one.
Is that Saddam's boys?
Yeah, they're the ones with little black berets going around torturing people. So they were just dogs. We just shoot them like dogs. And they would literally try to hide behind the troops and fire at you. So you just open up.
Jeez.
So it was crazy right off the rip. And I think the scariest was the first seconds of like actual combat for me was like, holy shit, this is like real. And it wasn't like scared. And it wasn't like, but you were anxious. And then there was times where you were like, I don't even know how to put it. You were more like worn out and just done, because you were just like, I'm done with this. I just want to sleep. I just want like quiet, because it was just so loud and your ears were ringing. You never wore earplugs. So it never stopped. And then you'd just be like, it was the fear of the unknowing, like is
the uncertainty,
like 100%, because they don't tell you everything, because everything's got to be like, oh, loose lips sink ships. Let your guys know what's going on. And you had very young, inexperienced officers. We had some that were like, they were great, but some of them, like our new CO, he came to our unit within like 4 months before we deployed. Prior to that, we had the same CO for 2 years that like knew our first names, our families, where we were from, everything about us, like our siblings' names. Like he knew us.
Yeah.
A lot of our staff NCOs left because they were up with the retirement. They were at 20 years, 30 years. I mean, we were Romeo Battery. We were proud of that. We were the Rhinos. We even had our own salute, you know?
Yeah.
First sergeant would tell everybody, we're the boys from Romeo. Fuck off. So, I mean, but when you went over there, it was that brotherhood that kept you alive.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on that whole weapons of mass destruction thing? I mean,
well, I'm not drinking, but I'll tell you what I think.
go ahead, man.
I think more or less it was a smoke show.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, we got in trouble because we named our guns, right? And the tubes of our guns. Well, us being, smart asses, our gun was black gold. One guy said, I think he had Texas tea on it. I mean, we all had some like names of oil companies, just being smart asses, and they made us take them off because the news reporters were out there. So then we started putting, like, someone got a blow up dial sent to him. We put them in a ring mount of the machine gun, put spring break 2003 while you were chilling, we were killing. Got in trouble for that, but it did make MTV, by the way.
Did it really?
My sister recorded it. She has it somewhere on VHS. That's how old I am.
VHS, baby. Come on now.
Yeah.
I go back to beta.
Oh yeah. So, but the sad part was they won't say it out loud, but we all knew what the fuck was the push to the oil field for then. That was the biggest rush. Get everybody to that oil field and secure it. Secure that oil field. We don't want the 90s Persian Gulf thing again. We don't want that again.
Well, what was it? They considered this like the second Persian Gulf War.
The problem is with my records, you can look at them. It still doesn't say I was there. It just says I got a combat action deployed in theater. Basically, it doesn't say the name, because when I got out, because they were kicking everybody out that was involuntarily extended, They didn't have a name for it yet, so they just put you have combat action overseas.
Mm.
So like trying to get some disability right now is like pulling teeth.
Yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit too.
Oh
man.
boy.
Yeah. So I have a buddy of mine who's a
Mhm.
Marine vet down in
Mhm.
Florida, and I did a podcast with him. DJ, great guy, man. And that's another thing that bothers me is all the money that we're dumping out right now to overseas to this Gaza and Israel and shit like that. I'm not a political person. I don't talk politics on my show. I don't get involved with that shit. But I have a lot of vet friends
Mhm.
and a lot of guys that got hurt that need that assistance here. And DJ, 4 freaking years just to get hearing aids.
Mhm.
Just to get hearing aids, man. And it's sad when you have to wait months sometimes just to get a freaking appointment at the VA.
It's getting better now than it was like when I got out. They just tell you go to the VA when you get out, get in the system. And I'm like, for what? But
Yeah.
like now, before you get discharged, they have reps come to the base, and that's part of your separation. They actually make you go get all your paperwork filed, so they're not going through the shit some of us are going through.
Yeah,
which is good. But at the same time, they're still not doing enough. They'll try to tell you, oh, that's not service related. Well, I wasn't broke when I went in, but coming out, I'm broke. So how the hell is it not service related?
What I noticed that a lot with a lot of friends, that they try and pull some type of like the curtain over their eyes in some sense, like, no, you had that prior. That's prior. No, it wasn't. My knee didn't act like this before. My back pain wasn't there before I signed up. If it was, I wouldn't have been able to do half the shit I had to do in basic to get to where I needed to get.
But it's because they don't want to pay you
Mm.
or they want to drug you up and like I said, I'm not going to get too political, but they want to drug you up because it's cheaper to pay that one-time fee of your family than it is to keep you around to
continuously
pay you. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of people. If you look at what they're giving people, sometimes they don't cross right. And that's why they're offing themselves in records, because they're getting, if you were a little bit depressed, next thing you know, the shit they're pumping into you, half these guys are zombies. I can tell you 4 names right now. I work like my boys. They quit taking their meds because they were walking around like zombies.
Yeah.
One of them tried killing himself. And he was like the most squared away, like down to earth dude. Like he was the one that saved all our asses. And he said the medicine just made him feel like he was out of his mind. And they kept telling him he's crazy. Yeah. You're crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. And he's like, well, there is now.
Well, I'll say this, and I'm going to say this on the show too. So for anybody that does listen and is watching this podcast, you need somebody to talk to. Drop us a comment. You can connect with me, and I'm sure you can connect with Chad, man. And you need somebody to talk to. You just want to vent, get that fucking depression off of you. We'll talk to you, man. We'll talk to you. And dial that 988.
I don't remember the number is.
I believe it's 988. And it's the suicide prevention line, man. And, I did a little podcast on that. But, yeah, man, I mean, you're not alone. Seriously, you're not alone. You got brothers out there. It don't matter, man. We'll talk to you. We'll get you through it, man.
I remember like a saying that everybody used to say, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
No.
Well, that's not a dumb, that's the best way to put it. If you're hurting, trust me, we all do it. Like when we look at each other, like and say, you good? Yeah. We both know we're not.
Exactly.
But we just put on this tough exterior, just pretending like it doesn't happen. But you don't really experience it until you talk to someone who's been in your shoes. Because trying to talk to somebody who's never walked that walk, they're like, yeah, man, I know what the fuck you do. Like, but when you talk to another fellow service veteran, you talk to someone, like even if it's an uncle who's been in your shoes, might not be the same sandbox, but is sure as hell the same toys.
Yeah.
And they understand you, and they might be able to just sometimes just getting it out.
I don't have combat
experience,
wasn't overseas, but I give everything I can to anybody that was. All my respect, my support, anybody. I mean, I see these guys sometimes outside of certain stores and doing charitable things, and whatever's in my pocket, I'll give. Anything to help a vet or something. And there's so many great companies out there, man. So many great companies that I love for these people. Like the love that I have for these people are phenomenal. So many great companies, like you got Black Rifle Coffee,
Yeah.
good company. Blackout Coffee,
Yep.
another great one. Till Valhalla Project,
Yeah.
those guys are phenomenal. Those guys take care of you. Plaques, help you get remains brought home.
Yes,
they
sir.
they do it, man. They do it. So shout out to those companies. I want to thank you guys for that. It's tough, bro.
Oh yeah, it is.
You know how
But you
it
know
is.
what? You just suck it up and
Yeah.
but when you get to talk to people and like I've met a couple people and like we got along, but the guys that were with me are the ones I reach out to. I got this guy who's Sergeant Nichols, Dustin Nichols. Man, that dude he's my ride or die. Motherfucker, just he's like he'll never know how like I looked up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he always watched out for me. Like I was a fucking asshole. I mean, they called me the pit bull because like I took care of the shit that they weren't allowed to do when I wasn't an NCO. Always watched out for me, always had my back, and I still talk to him a lot. Met up with him, met in Ohio. He's from Ohio. Sorry, Ohio sucks, but sorry. Met him down there for his birthday, and it's just like, dude, it's like didn't even pass a day. Talking shit to his wife like always. She'll start talking and just shut the fuck up, and she's like, "You're still the dick," and he's just like, he loves it. But it's like, I still talk to him when shit's going wrong, and he's the one that like, no matter what's going on, like my wife can call him like, "Better come get your boy. He's off his rocker again."
Yeah.
He'll call me up like, "What the fuck are you doing, fuck nut?" I don't know.
I think having that camaraderie, man, that brotherhood is unbreakable.
Mhm.
There's always those group of guys, you know, that you can connect with, that you'll always stay connected with. You know what I mean? And it's just something about that connection. I mean, yeah, you'll have your boys that you went to school with and maybe college with or worked with, and you guys known each other. But when you build that one connection with somebody, especially military, it's a bond that's totally unbreakable. And it's just it's good shit, man.
Well,
it's really good shit.
it's funny because like 2 years back, he calls me up and he sends me, "Hey, your nephew graduated." I was like, "All right." Mind you, we're not blood, but I got back from
Yep.
Iraq. His son was born while we were in Iraq. I come home. I'm the second person to hold him. He's like, "There's your nephew." That little shithead, man. I love that kid because his wife's from Fowlerville. So she'd come up to visit her ma. He'd go see Uncle Chad. I'd spoil the fuck out of him, send him home. So like he graduates, I go down, see him, and then calls up and goes, "Hey, Uncle Chad." Said, "Yeah." He goes, "He's 20 now. Just turned 20.
Oh shit.
He goes,
Is he military bound?
no. He says, "Hey, Uncle Chad, I want to tell you something." I said, "What's up?" It's like, "I'm having a baby." I was like, "Sweet." He goes, "Will you come to my baby shower?" So I'll try. I never tell him that. I'm never gonna tell him. I walk in, he looks at me and he's just like teary-eyed. He's like, I show up for everything for that kid.
Yeah.
So he came to his dad's birthday in Toledo and he's running his mouth. I was like, "Son, less, fizzy pops, you're making a fool of yourself." And he just looks at me, puts his head down. He goes, "Sorry." But it's just funny because I look at that kid and I used to hold him and now he's just like, and that's from that's from my boy.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because he still lives in Ohio. And I'm like, "Why don't you just move back up here to Michigan, dude?
Yeah.
There's so much more up here to do." But whatever.
So you guys cross the border.
Yes, sir.
You guys get in there.
Yep.
What, through your eyes, what are you seeing? What's going down?
At first, a lot of shelling, like 100-pound rounds going down range. I was the plugger. So I was literally hooking a lanyard up, throwing powder in. They'd slam around, throw the powder in, prime it, boom. Just rocking shells. And then we find out later the shells we were firing actually ain't supposed to fire more than 12 of those in 24-hour period. We had fired that in like 10 minutes. So it's rocking our heads, and that's another VA issue that never happened. Bullshit. I mean, like, we got reports showing it. It was in the newspaper, on the news. But just shelling the shit out of everything. Basically shock and awe. Shock the shit out of them. Show them how superior you are. They don't want to fight. Break their will. Just break their will, move forward. I didn't see a lot of shit until we got up to the city, is where...
What city is this?
I want to say it was... God, I'm going to butcher it. I think that one was Coot, because it was on the southern part. We came into it. I want to say it was Coot or Basra. One of the two, but I think it was Basra, the one where I damn near pissed myself. We're sitting here in the truck going down this narrow corridor, like in the city with these gun trucks, and we're rolling along. I remember coming around the corner, and all of a sudden, here's a T-72 tank barrel sticking right at our face. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's it. That's it. Like, that's all you're saying. You had fuck. What do you do? What do you do? Because I'm in the ring mount, like with machine gun, and going, oh, fuck. And I seen everybody doing the same thing. And the guys ahead of us are like, it's good. It's empty. But like for a split second there, you're looking down the barrel of a 120 millimeter tube staring at you. You're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's all you can say. It's just fuck. So we get around through there, and we set up on the outskirts there. No one's really doing anything there. Like, the guard's gone. Like, the Republican Guard is gone. Nobody's in that town except for civilians. They're cheering us on. We're throwing out little yellow humanitarian rats. They're like double MREs.
Yeah.
That are like, we were rat fucking towards the end because we weren't getting chow because the Army couldn't keep up with our supply because they were the supply drain. And when you got everybody moving so fast, they can't keep. I mean, nothing against them. They just couldn't supply everybody.
Yeah.
They could supply fuel and ammo, just couldn't get us the food. So give them food or keep the food. We'll throw them some, save some.
Yeah.
Because typical Marine Corps fashion, do more with less.
Yeah.
So we set up outside that town there, and we started, that was like the first real sleep we got for a minute because we were refueling. And they told us, because we had chemical suits on too, air yourself out. So leave your pants on, but you'd pull your chemical shirt off, or the smock, you'd pull that off. Your flak was off, socks off, laying next to the gun trucks just while they're fueling shit up, letting us just rest and relax for a minute. Why?
What kind of confrontation are you getting from that side?
From the Iraqis?
Yeah.
Nothing at this point, like nothing, which is kind of spooky. It's like, we're not really seeing, other than shit we've blown up. We'll see some empty tanks. You haven't seen any bodies yet.
Yeah.
You know, like we haven't. All we're seeing is like shit, tanks, few Haji trucks, anybody was there knows these white trucks with orange fenders. You'd see those and you're like, okay, they're going to have a mortar or they're going to be shooting at us.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I haven't seen anything really yet. You might see a few weapons laying here. No bodies, though. So we're just like, this is weird. And we started realizing there was a flag system, that the Iraqis were using flags to warn when we were close. They put different flags outside their house, colors. And they knew if you were rolling up, you see them change a flag, you knew just to shell that house. So we do a typical drive-by, 50 cal.
How many colors?
The ones we seen, sometimes you see green, you see red, or black. Black means we're there, so they wouldn't come by. So they'd stay clear of that until we leave. And then the Army, like, we were moving in a wave across, but it was true that the Iraqis knew who was there to, like, when the Army was there, they're fucking with them. When Marines were there, they weren't, because our ROE was the same, but they literally in their minds think that we're killing our family members to get in. Psychological warfare is the greatest part of it. They were scared of us because we didn't stop where the Army would stop. We would just keep rolling through shit.
What was the stoppage on the Army? To give aid in some sense too?
They would give aid. They weren't so much, best way to put it, on alert as much.
Okay.
Because I mean, there was a couple times we were waiting for them, and they would be like in PT gear, rolling up with their. Someone would be sleeping in the truck, and we're all like wide eye, like, yeah. That was later on, but they were it was a little more lax, it seemed like, and you're just sitting here thinking in your head, well, if you come to play ball, look the part too.
Yeah.
Because they were, I'm not saying all of them, but the ones we were running across, because I do have some friends that were in third ID at the same time, and they were like, yeah, you must have seen a unit not like us. And I was like, well, what I seen, they weren't like, the Iraqis weren't afraid of them. They were afraid of us because our trucks were different. The markings on our trucks were different. Our camis were different. We're the only dumbasses out there in woodland camo. Like the chemical suits were woodland camo. Our trucks were woodland color in the middle of a desert. Perfect.
I can't see you, Sarge.
I can't. Yeah. And it was just like, but the whole time we're just like, they knew we were there for one thing.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to fight, they'd find us. Cause it's like, but for the most part, the normal Iraqi army didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
They wanted to, they weren't getting fed. You'd find out later on. They'd be walking by you with white flags, no weapons, just trying to get the hell away. You'd find their gear laying everywhere. They're like their canteens, helmets, shit just piled everywhere because they didn't want nothing to do with it.
Well, I think I've read somewhere at one point too, man, was that a lot of these guys were forced into this, and it was either you do this or
you die.
Yeah, you die, or you know what, you can live, but your family's done.
Well, we were like, when we were raiding houses, as we start going up, they're like checking IDs. We're finding barrels of weed. It's like more like hash.
Yeah.
We're like, they tell us to confiscate weapons, and we're like, do you confiscate drugs? Or like, 'cause we're thinking America, and they're like, no, that's religious. And you're like, okay. And you're just looking, and you're like, man, this is a fucking pothead's dream, dude. This is like there's like bales.
Jesus.
But if you find weapons, we're like, okay, we found a weapon. We're rustling through their shit. Well, most of the farmers had bolt action rifles. We're thinking, so we're like hog tying them, throwing them out of the houses, face down on their knees. And then we find out later, everybody has a military ID, because we were taking all the males because they had military IDs. We're just taking them, putting them in a truck, sending them back for interrogation. We find out later, like, I felt like a piece of shit. Because I mean, we're like, these are the motherfuckers trying to kill us. So like, we're kind of rough with them. Find out later, everyone has a military ID. These farmers all have rifles. They have to have AKs 9 times out of 10. They're Iraqi, like fighters. But we'd find all kinds of stuff hidden in grain bins. Like, it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
It was like, you feel like a piece of shit, but at the same time, you're just like, I'd rather be on the side of cautious.
Yeah.
It was a little eerie sometimes.
What were your nights like? I'm sure, like, I've talked to a few friends about their evenings. What was your?
They were different.
Yeah.
A little sketchy at times. One night in particular, we seen during the day, like, it was a little, kind of reminded me of like the Wild West. Okay. We were set up in this hayfield. It looked like a hayfield, like for around here, but it was on hills. We'd been shelling that day, and we almost took out a Cobra. We got to check fire. We look up, here's this chopper coming over the hill, and the pilot's like just looking at us. And we were firing. I think he didn't know we were there. But later that night, we were sitting there, and we see this hut, like this, almost looked like something you'd see like on, what's that movie? Dances with Wolves. Like, but it looked like a house.
Yeah.
With like a mud, like, century gate around it.
Yep.
And we see like flag out there, and it's like showing green, and we're just like, okay. So we go to sleep. We were still considered hot, so we couldn't sleep, but we'd do 50-50 where half the crew stays up while the other half just gets a little bit. You'd sleep an hour or two, maybe, if you got that. Well, out of nowhere, we just start hearing thump, thump. I'm like, we all like jump up. That's mortars. Well, they're not even getting close to us, but then we start seeing gunfire from there. They're shooting towards us. We just drop the tubes down on the howitzer, and it's like, are you really that stupid? Some more gunfire, and we just get command, fire, level this place.
Jesus.
It's just mud. So what do you think that HE is going to do when it point and detonates? And it's like, you're sitting there, you're like, these people are the same people getting food from us. We find out later on, they wait till it starts getting dark. The insurgents will come in, get in these buildings, and they think that they're safe. We're safe. We think we're safe. And they're using that as like the human shield because they think, oh, these are nice people. They're not going to do nothing. And they'll start firing from it. Well, they'll try to get out of there before we fire back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did not that time.
Mm.
But in town, they would do the same thing. These people are like sitting here, like trying to get food from you, and yet you get a couple pot shots from Johnny want to be a hero back there behind some kid or wife. So for a while there, we had to, like, for whatever reason, you'd have to stop the trucks to cool them down because they'd overheat. So they would leapfrog all the way. Like tanks would roll by and they'd cover while everybody else would move up. And then we'd cool down, and then LAR would come up, which is light armor reconnaissance, so the wheeled tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come by and they'd set up, and then everybody get off the highway so people could leapfrog up, but they'd have to cool. The tanks would have to cool because it was so hot, and those trucks were running with that much weight and stuff. Everything was overheating. So instead of blowing the trucks up, and if the truck did blow up, we had these brand new trucks that they were telling us to blow up when, if the truck broke down, they'd push it off the side of the road. The tail gunner, basically, the XO was in the back. He would go up and they would blow up that brand new truck because they can't leave it for the enemy. So you got a brand new truck that literally, boom, it's in pieces.
How bad were your vehicles with the armoring?
What armor?
Exactly.
When I went over, the armor we had was put sandbags on the floorboard, sandbags in the back. You took out the seating and the 7 tons, and you did 3 high sandbags, and you sat on ones in the middle so you could aim out. There were sandbags. There was no armor. There was no was no shield on the
when did they start upgrading that?
Oh, I can't tell you. That wasn't when I was there, and it wasn't any time after I was gone. I know some people that were in, they said it took a little while, but they started rotating in. Like the Army got it first. Typical fashion. They do. I mean, it's just the Marine Corps is the workhorse for the Navy. The Navy gets the money.
Mm.
We get the hand-me-downs basically from the Army. Like, 'cause a lot of our stuff was Army hand-me-downs. I remember, like, at most places, everybody will tell you that.
Yeah.
But they had the like the shielding on the ring mounts. They started having the armor plating on the doors, and those came in as kits for the Humvees and the trucks. And then my buddy was telling me they had things called MRAPs, which was like armored personnel carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to beef it up, but when that happened, they didn't have anything like that yet. So we were just kind of like, you put your packs outside the truck, the strap to the outside, plus it was just whatever you could put between you and the enemy.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, they had guys rolling in AAVs, which are the amphibious tanks you see the Marine Corps use to come out of the back of ships.
Yeah.
They'd have those hatches open and grunts sitting in there shooting from it. 7.62 will penetrate that.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who was I believe you met him, my buddy Judd. He was an Amtrak commander. He said, dude, we'd get like shells ricocheting through there, just rip through it like Swiss cheese. If they had armor, like if there was an armor piercing type 7.62, it would just rip through.
Ting, ting, ting.
Yep. And he said the whole time you're just like, okay, here's my Swiss cheese.
Jesus Christ, man. So you're traveling, you're getting to these, these areas and stuff. And, you're in a lot of open space, fieldish and stuff. And when you come into these urban areas, these so-called cities, how tough was it getting through those? I mean, I hear stories, of different things, and
I wouldn't say it was tough because we didn't have to deal with many skirmishes there.
Okay.
Our biggest problem was sometimes we had to take the cami net, like the posts we'd use. We'd have to hold up power lines because they would be hitting the trucks in some other smaller towns.
Mm-hmm.
But they never messed with us because we like recon would go through. They would be right ahead of us, not even a mile or two. They did a hell of a job. Like the guys we were with, if anybody's ever seen the TV show Generation Kill on HBO, that was Marine First Recon in Iraq. we were the artillery unit they talked about. We were attached to them because we were the bastard battalion. We didn't have an infantry company attached to us.
Mm.
So we literally went wherever they called us. We went through town. Like, you didn't have any issue. Most of the people were hiding because they were like, recon came through and just made it known that we're going to fuck you up. And there was nothing, but it was mostly on the outskirts, like the bridges. They'd hide in like groves where they'd attack. They didn't want to fight you in the city. For at least us. Later on, they learned that that was their ultimate goal, is to use the city because they can't bring the tanks in. You can't bring stuff in.
So you guys, you're moving through. You're getting into these little cities,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the retaliation coming from the cities in general?
Actually, they in the southern part when we were down there, they were actually excited to see us because with us moving forward, the engineers were coming up and they were getting wells working. They were donating generators. So these people actually had running water. It wasn't muck. They were actually having ways to get fresh water, electricity, which they haven't seen in forever. So for the most part, it was very welcome. It was the loyalists that didn't like us there, but they were, like I said, we weren't getting shot at. Like, that's why I kept saying, like, what's watching over us? Because how is it everybody else is getting fucked up and we're just like on a wing and a prayer rolling through and nothing's really happening? Like, that's what it was like, am I dreaming this? Am I actually awake? Or like, am I hallucinating because I've just lack of sleep? And like nothing was really happening. I was even all the way up through Baghdad. We got pretty lucky. I mean, we got shot at a couple times when we were doing patrols, like when we dismount and do a patrol to make sure clear an area because there was a lot of like debris laying around. So you wanted to make sure. But we got pot shots there, but nothing really were directly fired at. So it was like you're looking around the whole time like, am I dreaming this? Is this really happening? Are we really this fucking lucky? Because like first recon was getting their asses handed to them a couple of times where they were like literally given as well as they were getting. And we're like, we're not seeing any of it. Are they really just? It was hard to explain that. A lot of the times we weren't catching what other people were.
Now, in these little city areas, are you guys getting right to like government facilities, buildings, and stuff like that right away? Getting in there and taking over and seeing what's happening. I mean, what like
for us, it was mostly they would get us either set up on the outskirts of the city, and they would advance through. They get to the other side and tell us it was all clear, and we'd break down the guns and roll through. But for the most part, we didn't do any of the house to house stuff at first because the cities were so small. We just roll through. We set up on the outskirts. So if they needed us to shell, we could shell. We could provide fire when they needed now.
Yeah.
But they never needed it. So we'd keep leapfrogging. But closer we got to Baghdad, we got told to stop. And we're all kind of like, why? Well, command came down since the army was in charge. They wanted the army to take Baghdad. They wanted it to be like this invading force. The U.S. Army rolls through Baghdad and shows everybody that the Americans are here. Typical Marine Corps fashion. Fuck that. We're going through. It wasn't our decision. We just got told by General Manis, fuck that. Roll through. Get to the other side.
Oh, horse hockey.
Yeah. Like he was, when he talked to us before the invasion, that man could be a motivational speaker. The way he said stuff, he made you want to go do violent things to violent people, even if you weren't a violent person. Just the way he say stuff, it was just like, I know a lot of people didn't care for him well, when he got out of the military, but in the military, he was very motivated. He motivated you because he was the chesty puller of our generation.
Well, how was the motivation with you guys? Like, how was your morale? Like, when you guys are pushing and you're going and you're getting there and stuff, and things are happening, getting through scenario through scenario through scenario, how are you guys holding up together? Like in your minds, like are you guys thinking, when the fuck is this going to be over? Are we going to get there soon? What, like, what's going on?
The best way, like, I wouldn't say morale was ever low
Mm-hmm.
because we all had been together for the most part for a better of 2.5, 3 years between, your veteran NCOs getting out because their enlistment was up before. When we became NCOs, we had some boots that were with us, the FNGs, the new guys. They all were with us for the most part. We had 2 new guys. One guy's name was Tobin Rich. He was from Indiana, and he had been with us 3 weeks before we deployed. So he was the newest guy.
Mm.
He was having a little hard time, but for us, it was just in our head, it was just another deployment. You practice the way we used to tell each other. You always practice for the game. You always practice for the game. Well, now we're in the fucking game. Most people can never say they were in the game. They just practiced. We got to go, and the morale wasn't low, but it was just kind of like, dude, I want to shower. It's been 30 days. I just want to get the sand off my balls. They're so raw from the sand. The sandstorms were brutal. You could hear enemy tanks, but you could never see them because the sky was like orangish black during the middle of the day. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't do shit besides set back and hope to God. Yeah, it wasn't your minute because you couldn't see. You couldn't see at all. But morale wasn't bad. It was just more or less, can I get a shower? Can I get some real food? These MREs are starting to just suck.
How long before you guys got a basic camp going to where stuff like that?
I never got a camp like that until we went up to Crete. We were part of a task force that was sent up to capture Saddam's hometown. I got a picture somewhere where I was sitting at Saddam's desk on his phone with my feet up and my rifle across. I think I can find it, but we were sitting there, and that was the first time like we got anything that was close to air conditioning, because the palace, we blew up most of his palaces, like out of just, but they wanted us to use as an outpost. So we set up the howitzers on the outside, and then we got to go in the inside. Well, you went in the inside, everything's concrete and marble. There is no AC. And it was like you were in AC because everything's 120 degrees outside. Mm-hmm. In there, it's 70. So you're just like, oh my God, I'm kind of chilly. But it was like,
let's go back a second.
Yeah.
You get your orders. You guys are like, okay, here's the deal. We're going to Saddam's hometown.
They didn't tell us that until we got there. They're like, welcome to Saddam's hometown. They're going to want to kill you. And we're going, well, what the fuck? Like, who? And they're like, loyalist. And we're like, okay. They're like, they're not going to be in uniforms this time. And they gave us ROEs, which are your rules of engagement. Mm-hmm. And you had to wait to be fired on before you could return fire. And I remember my command just saying, fuck that. If it looks like it's going to shoot you, kill it. Because I'm not taking you guys home in body bags. I mean, the running joke was, if it's and everybody's laughing, they're like, dude, I just want to go home, man. I'm just done with this shit. Because they started that just prior to that, they started because we'd always just leave our trash. Mm-hmm. Like your MRE boxes, we just throw them off the truck because you had no room anywhere. Like, so these guys were using our garbage to plant IEDs in. So now they're blowing shit up, and we're just like, we're done with this. Like, this guerrilla warfare, we're done. If you don't want us here to free your country, what are we doing? Like, it was a little nerve wracking, but we got there and we were stationed there, and then they moved us over to this abandoned army base. Mm-hmm. That was like just shelled to shit. But that was our out where we sat. And that's where everybody got sick because we were there for so long with no latrines. So people are just digging holes, shitting like cats everywhere. People are getting sick because there was nowhere to go. But that was the first time I got a hot meal in like shit over almost 60 days.
Really?
And that's when we got a little bit after that, we got our first shower. We almost went 70 days with no shower. Baby wipes.
How much were they looking on you guys? Like looking at you guys, checking you guys, making sure you're all there, making sure like you're 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 physically okay, mentally okay, as you're progressing through all this, like vitals and whatnot.
Our corpsmen, our docs, they were just God sent. Like they took care of us. Like whenever you needed something, they took care of it. I mean, a lot of us got like swamp foot. The best way to put it was like a trench foot.
Yeah.
Because you had to wear your combat boots. Well, then you had to put those like rubber galoshes over them because of chemical attacks. Your feet never got to dry, so they're giving you like women's yeast infection cream to wipe on your toes because your socks were so waterlogged they were falling apart.
Jesus, man, just walking around here.
Yeah. Your feet were tender as shit. So when they gave us a second to like take your boots off, the first thing you do is ripping your socks apart, like ripping your feet out just to air them out. It was just the corpsmen were the backbone to say keep us. Like when you started getting dehydrated and you just couldn't chug enough water, and they were giving you IVs because you ain't going down. So I mean, the corpsmen were
godsends.
Yes, they were, but again, typical Marine Corps fashion: waist down, foot powder; waist up, 800 Motrin.
800 Motrin.
Ibuprofen. Here's your 800. Here's a bag of them. Take them. Okay.
Your total time over there?
I was there 9 months. I was since I was the assault company.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. I don't know what they actually called it. They told us when we went, we were an assault company. We're not there for a deployment like an actual, because after we left, they started having them do a 14-month being over there. And I came back and they gave me the option of, hey, Sergeant, you can re-enlist and you're probably going to go to Afghanistan and Iraq in 6 months, and there's no incentive. You can't cross stack. And I was like, that was what, if I was going to stay in, I wanted to get out of artillery and do my B billet. So that way I could pick up rank. And they're like, with the war on, it's not going to happen. We need combat experience to go back overseas. And they're like, what can we do? And I was like, just give me a signed letter from Jesus Christ. Get the fuck out of my office type shit. And I was just like, I'm not going back to that for 14 months with no incentives, doing the same bullshit I just did.
Yeah.
With no way to move up. And then they were really frowned upon tattoos at the time because the new commandant came in and they didn't want tattoos.
Yeah.
And I've never met any combat arms Marine that didn't have tattoos. It was like a rite of passage.
I remember when I got in, I had to get a waiver.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything on my hands or my throat, but
right.
I'll tell you a fucking funny story though, man. I'm going through basic and I'm walking down the hall and I hear Private Campbell. I'm like, yes, drill sergeant. And this is the whole time he's talking to me. He's like, he's looking me up and down, man. He's shaking his head. He's got that swirl. He's like, God damn. I'm like, yes, drill sergeant. He's like, boy, you got more ink in you than a ballpoint pen. Yes, drill sergeant. It's just one of those fucking things, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had to get a waiver, man. And I know that they were frowning down on a lot of
certain tattoos too, because they were trying to say it was gang related, racist.
Yep.
And like you've tattooed me quite a bit, and you've heard some of the stories on some of them, and some of the stupid ones I got, and you're like, what made you do that? And I'm like, a dare in the barracks room. The dude paid for my booze for the week.
Stupid shit.
Here we go. And you've actually had to fix some of those.
Yeah. So all right. So you're getting close to, all right, let's say you're 6 months in. Where you at 6 months? What's going on over there?
Over there. At that point, it was more of the initial assault was over.
Yeah.
It was more at that point. They told us the war portion was over. Now it was the peacekeeping, like letting them restore. And all I got told is at this point, 6 months, shit, it kind of went as a blur, but around 6 months, we were set up at that different base, kind of like doing patrols out in town. Nothing fancy. They weren't really messing with us. And by the time I left,
so you guys were doing more like a policing.
Yes.
Just kind of keeping an eye, looking at shit, making sure.
They broke us down they say every Marine's a rifleman, and we all know that. They train you to do that, but you're not. Some of us had, like when we were stateside back when I first got in to our unit, we did a lot of work with 1-6 infantry company. We did a lot of maneuvers with them. They were teaching us basic infantry maneuvers and how to help out as a provisional rifle squad.
Okay.
So like say our guns broke down, we could still be, they could teach us how to be an infantry unit. So when we were over there, a lot of us had a lot of that training. So I became a squad leader for our squad. So we would go out on patrols. We did find quite a few weapons caches. One, I got some photos somewhere. That was way before these digital phones and you could put them all on there, but
a lot of the weapons from over there were
Russian.
Were Russian, right?
Yeah. The scary part is though, when we first hit Basra, we found training manuals for Russian, like Russian military training manuals, weapons, and we were kicking the shit out of anything that came across us, like legitimately. And we were using a World War II technique. And these guys are using modern day Russian tactics. And we're like, what's going to happen when we actually use our own tactics?
Yeah.
Like, wow. So that's why I say with like this Ukraine shit, it's like you got a lot of they have all this equipment they were using in Iraq 20 years ago, still using that same equipment. And it's like they're bragging about taking an Abrams tank from an Ukrainian unit that was never even trained with it. And you're like, okay,
that whole thing right there, man. That I don't even know where to begin with that.
I know we're not getting the whole story because it was my parents were showing me stuff they recorded from when I was over there and like, were you here? I'm like, yeah, but that's not what happened. I mean, we had reporters embedded in our units.
Yeah.
And they were giving away our position a lot with their satellite phones, getting on it. And we're like, at one point we took ours back and said,
I'd be like, give me that.
Well, I didn't want nothing to do with it because they said they could pinpoint where we're at using those satellite phones. And you don't know. I don't know what the Russian technology is if they do have the ability to do that. So we're all like, yo, dude, just stop with this shit.
Yeah.
But
well,
go ahead.
What was our big thing? What the hell? What was it? The Patriot?
Yep.
Yeah, that was one of our big things then.
Yeah, they had Scuds. We were at around Baghdad. We were there for probably about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They bermed us in. The CBs came in and barricaded us in, made us like a fire base. And we were there. I can't tell you exactly. It was about 2 weeks. They just got everybody up there, was trying to like re-outfit and like catching up. And then we ended up moving off. And for the most part, it was up by Tikrit. I think I'm saying it right, but we were up there in Saddam's hometown when we found an underground weapons cache, but it had like warheads in it and they weren't nuclear. So they told us, you guys want to watch the most expensive fireworks show in the world?
Oh shit, man.
We were sitting on the top of our gun trucks, like in hammocks, basically out of the tarp, laying there watching these like A-10s come over and just light it up, and F-18s just strafe it, and all of a sudden just boom, 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 and it's just shaking the ground. We're like, y'all can have these pussy ass fireworks they got out here right now. Everybody's like, oh, look at the pretty fireworks. When you watch billions of dollars of ordnance from another country just go up, and you're sitting there smiling, going, that one ain't gonna get me.
Yeah. I just saw something on the news the other day, and I don't know how accurate this is. I could be off on this, guy, so I apologize. But I believe they took out a weapons depot. And I don't know if it was in Ukraine or was it in Russia. I don't know which one it was, but man, like the explosion was like apparently fucking huge, man.
Well, that's what I can't even explain. I know we were back quite a ways, but it shook the ground and we were all just laughing because like that was the most excitement we really seen of just like carnage.
Yeah.
Like you act like normally with artillery, you don't really see what you do. They call you the king of battle because no one knows it's coming until it's too late. And we literally rule the battlefield because we have the arsenal to do it.
And that was one time we got to see something bigger than us, just like really rain hell down. And I'll tell you right now, those A-10s, nothing says America like a gun with a plane built around it.
No shit.
Oh yeah, just hear that just wah, as they open up. You're just like, somebody's gonna have a headache.
So you're getting to the end of your deployment there,
Mm-hmm.
and what's going through your head? Like excitement, ecstatic.
Sad.
You built that brotherhood, man.
Well, the sad part is they good friend of mine got killed. We got back to Baghdad, and they had camps set up at that time.
Mhm.
They weren't big camps, but they were like your unit would be in a row, another unit be in a row. And it's a guy I went to boot camp with, went artillery school with. He was in a unit from the West Coast. Well, I ran into him. We were having a little football game. Well, some jackass tried stealing a mortar as a souvenir, and they told us that we had to get rid of all souvenirs. Basically, you got to get rid of them. And then they were telling us they had burn pits, so they threw their garbage in there. Well, we were out playing football. Some jackass threw a mortar in there and didn't know, supposedly. We'll end up killing him. He ended up getting hit with shrapnel, and he bled out. It just ripped his throat to shit, the shrapnel. He died. That kind of hit hard. And then we sat there for a little while, and I couldn't tell you, maybe a week or two to get our march orders to roll back to Kuwait. So we get back to Kuwait, and then the fuck games start. Considered the Marine Corps standards, I was like 209 pounds, but 6'2". I was over my weight limit, but we had to get taped. We got to start PTing again. I think at that time I was down to like 100 and like maybe 80, 185 pounds, maybe, just because you were skin and bones.
Yeah.
With the heat, no matter how much water you drank, and
lack of rations.
Well, you got rations, but not enough to what you were burning.
Right.
So they wanted us to PT and all that stuff. And then they get word, okay, some of the NCOs I was with, hey, you're leaving. We're sending you home. We're not going back as a unit. We're sending these guys advanced party home. You guys will be the main party will come back 2 weeks later. And some of these guys I've been with for 4 fucking years get told like, hey, we're going home. And I'm looking at my boys and I'm like, they're like, yeah, dude, when we get back, we're done. So they went home, and it was like the hardest thing to do is watch them pull out on those Humvees to get on the plane to leave. We're sitting there for 2 weeks, and it was just like half my family's gone. The guys like from my gun crew are gone. I got some boots with me that, you know, one of them gets pissed off. I still call him. He calls me. I'm like, hey, boot, what's up? He's like, I'm not a fucking boot anymore. I'm like, yeah, I was going to be my boot, homie. But, and then I get back to Lejeune. We get on the plane, and it just like felt empty. Like, so you get back to the barracks and half your unit's gone because they got discharged. And the only thing you have left are a lot of now veteran kids, you know, privates, PFCs. They got combat experience. And a couple of us NCOs left. So they're promoting some of them. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Sergeant, go get your papers. You're done. 2 weeks later, I'm back home. Like, my war's over. So the hardest part for me was like, you had this tight-knit family, and you all just are gone. And then you come home, there's no structure. Yes, your family's here, but they look at you different now because they don't understand you. They don't understand why you stay up all night but want to sleep all day, because you don't feel secure at night because everybody's sleeping. So you feel like you need to be up. You have no structure, no one telling you what to do.
Yeah.
So it was like feeling out of place. Your family's gone, and like you reach out to them. And at the time that was through Facebook, because that's the only way you could find these guys, because that's what adults did. And the kids were on the was it MySpace back then? My sisters were all on, like, get on MySpace. I'm like, I don't need that shit. They're like, Facebook, get a hold of your buddies. So like some of us, we had their numbers, but most of us, like, I knew where they were from.
Yeah.
So we all stayed connected. we have a reunion, like I think the first one was probably about 4 years after we got back, and we found out our unit went overseas, took a lot of losses in Afghanistan, and they ended up disbanding it like a year or two later because of all the heavy losses.
Yeah.
And it hit home for some of us NCOs because we felt like we trained those guys, but they were just like so young. They didn't know anything but what we trained them. And it hit some of those guys pretty hard. Since we've been back, I've lost 3 good friends that decided it was easier to take the bullet than it was to go through life and talk to some of us.
How was it for you personally? Like when you got home and after being home for a week or so to start, getting your bearings back to being a civilian?
It was hell. Like, used to be a place called in Howell, since I'm from Howell, and there used to be a place called Mr. B's. So it was at the corner. I used to go up there every day at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'd go up there because in the military, when you got off work at 4:30, you all hung out in the barracks, have a beer. I'd go up there by myself and have a beer. And in my head, that's what I was doing, waiting for my boys to show up.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I was a mess. Anybody knew me knew not like, I don't know how to put it. I wasn't like crying and all this crazy shit. It was just like I had a hair trigger. That's when you met me. I had a hair trigger where it wasn't even alcohol. You say something stupid, you do something stupid. I just didn't care. Like I had no fucks to give.
And PTSD.
Yeah. And I didn't know it until I actually started talking to somebody. And at the time I wasn't going to go to the VA.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
So when you get back, there's nothing there for you. There's no say, hey, Sergeant, we want you to sit down with this person. We want you to know you're not alone, that you have somebody you can talk to. They didn't give you that.
No.
It was just like, okay, here's your fucking papers, my friend. And there's the door. Thank you.
I didn't even have your SRB, your service record book.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have it. Mine was still in Iraq.
Really?
It was coming back on ships. So I didn't even have any of my stuff. So when I got out, they're like, I'm standing there as a sergeant. They're looking at me. Hey, Sergeant. Well, records say you're a corporal. And you've been like my none of my shit was right. And they're like, well, when I went to sign out, like completely, they're like, well, you can stay out in town. You're discharged. You can stay out in town and come back here. It's going to take about 2 weeks to get your paperwork all in order. And I was just like, fuck this. Got in my truck and rolled home, like all the way to Michigan. Halfway home, I took my camis finally off because I was like, I'm done with it. I'm going to have to stay out in town to fix your fuck up. Like, what the fuck?
Mm.
It's not important.
You can hit the mute. But when you look back, do you miss it now?
This question was asked to me, and I'm going to say it the best way I can. I have a friend who was in Afghanistan, good friend of mine, Mikey. And he says he asked me one day, he goes, do you miss it? You ever miss it? Like the Marine Corps? I was like, the circus? No, I miss the clowns. I don't miss the fucking circus. Because as soon as
I miss a lot of my friends.
I call them the clowns.
Yeah.
Because you don't miss the circus.
No.
You don't miss the fuck games. You don't miss the constant mind fuck. The Marine Corps is great. I love the Marine Corps. But you don't miss that. You miss the clowns that were in it, in that circus. And I'm not saying they're jackasses. I'm just saying that's the best way to put it. You miss the clowns. You miss that brotherhood. You miss the, like, literally going next door. Hey, man, I'm out of cigarettes, man. Just walk next door. Schultz, yo, I need to smoke. Hey, you want to get some beer? Or just like sitting outside your barracks, jamming Pink Floyd, sitting on an MRE box, just listening to Comfortably Numb.
Speaking of MREs, how you feel about those nowadays?
I haven't seen them.
No?
The newest ones we had, there was a cheeseburger one that we'd fight for.
Yeah.
And that one was pretty good. But
so my kid and I, we do a lot of camping.
Oh yeah.
And I order cases of them.
Yeah.
Well, I got fucked on the last case they sent me. Well, I ordered 2 cases.
Mhm.
You know what they sent me? I got
Beef.
2 cases of humanitarian aid.
Yep.
It's all like lentil stew and
Oh.
shit.
No, the humanitarian ones we got were they were in a yellow wrapper with an American flag on the front, and those ones they had like beef stew in it that
Yeah.
they were high in calories, so
Yeah.
we would try to keep those ones. But
Crackers and the cheese bread, man, I love that.
best meal ever.
The jalapeno cheese.
Oh, I'll tell you, the best meal ever. Chili mac,
Mm.
jalapeno cheese, crackers, Tabasco. You have to scavenge them from other things.
Yeah.
But that was the meal. And you'd stick it all, you crush it all up. That's the only one you'd heat up, and you put it on an engine block so it'd get warm. And you mix it all up. That right there was the meal.
I don't even think they put in the little bottle of Tabasco anymore, man. I think it's just like just a little peel open pack, man. But yeah,
those bottles were great. Whenever
they
someone was sleeping, you just open up and just have to tap it once, and it would shoot it in their mouth, and they would never sleep again with their mouth open.
Yeah, man. They were cool too, man, because like you would get certain candy too, and you could get fucking melted Skittles, melted M&Ms, Jolly Ranchers. I mean,
we didn't get Jolly Ranchers.
No.
And then you had Charms. No one ever ate the Charms.
Yeah, Charms.
Don't touch Charms. Those are if you touch the Charms, it's gonna rain. You carry a white lighter, it's gonna rain. You're like, fuck you, dude. I hope it rains.
Yeah.
We got ready to come home. They're like, do the paperwork. You guys can keep your personal firearms, because I had an AK for a hot minute when my firing pin broke in my M16.
Really?
So I had an AK around Baghdad. That's what I had as a weapon to carry. No joke. My buddies were like, yo, you're in a foreign land using a foreign rifle. I was like, yeah, my luck.
Oh God.
And the PMI was my B billet.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went to the range, I was actually a coach. So I was a weapons expert with an M16, training people how to shoot better. And I'm stuck with an AK. I'm like, this is weird. So, but right before we got our CO, our commanding officer, he had a MP5 he found, and he carried it instead of, because he didn't have a rifle. He only had a pistol. So he had an MP5.
Really?
Oh, it was like straight up Delta Force, like looking. It was cool shit. But they said right before they had all these weapons laid out. I remember we were getting ready to roll back. They're like, anybody's got a weapon and doesn't have paperwork done. Well, we got scuttlebutt came down that only the officers are getting the paperwork, and they want to take them back as trophies for the battalion to put. And we all got told that means they're taking them. So First Sergeant's like, what are you going to do? Because we all became kind of close, and he was over there with our gun, and he goes, what are you going to do? And I was like, oh, it's already in the weapons pile. So everybody's over like frantically trying to find my pistol. Tank's coming along. I see it getting ready to crush it. I run right over there and put it underneath. And let them crush it. Yep. They bent the shit out of it. And they're all like, and everybody wanted that pistol. And I was not about to give it to somebody that was just an office fuck.
Right.
Like I carried that. Like, and then you tell me I'm probably not going to be able to do the paperwork to take it home. Fuck you. That thing's better off getting crushed than me giving it to some. It's going to be a trophy for some officer somewhere that didn't even come over here.
Yeah.
In battalion. Oh, here's your retirement. Here's a pistol from Iraq. Fuck you.
We were talking a little bit earlier after you got home.
Mm-hmm.
You look back now, you miss a lot of the guys. You miss, the whole.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to put it into words, but the camaraderie, the
brotherhood.
You miss all that. Is there anything that you look back on that you regret?
Not taking more pictures.
Yeah.
Because I have them in my head. But at the time, I was taking it all in with this picture instead of just taking it, because my kids ask questions.
Yeah.
My wife asks questions. And I try to explain to them, but I can't show them stuff because I don't have it.
Right.
So it's like, it's hard because I see my grandpa had photos and my uncles, they had photos. And at the time I didn't think of it.
What is one of the biggest memories in your mind that you see that's clear as day that was a major accomplishment over there that you saw with your own eyes?
I got a couple, but some of them I ain't gonna say nothing about.
Okay.
The one was I actually seen firsthand when the tank battalion ripped down that Saddam statue. Everybody sees, where they see him ripping it
I know
down.
exactly what you're talking about.
I was sitting there and I seen it
Really?
firsthand. It wasn't my accomplishment, but I seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Like clear as day, and rolling under the swords at the airport.
Mm-hmm. I can see where some of these images you want to remember and have them photographed and whatnot.
Yeah, there was quite a bit. I was proud of my boys.
Yeah.
Like my guys. Those are one of those proud dad moments.
Yeah.
Like I can say all my guys came home. Like I brought all my guys home. Like my buddy Dustin and I, there was Tito, Dustin, myself. Tito was the driver, so he sat up front with the staff sergeant. But our guys, we sacrificed our sleep all the time so they could get some sleep because they were kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we were kids, but they were fucking kids. I mean, like 19, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that literally you could see is scared, but they're looking to you for guidance. And those are my kids, man. Those are my fucking kids. And we sacrifice sleep so many times, and they tell us don't be smoking at night. And we just looked at each other one night. We're like, fuck it. I hope we get a headshot. We're rolling down the road smoking a cigarette in the back of the truck. And he's like, what if they do shoot us in the head? It's like, I guarantee we won't feel it, because you go so many hours without sleep. Like you wanted them to sleep because they start hallucinating, shooting at random things.
Yeah.
You're like, what did you shoot at? Didn't you see that guy out there? And you're like, there was no guy out there.
Yeah.
Your mind can fuck with you without sleep. And that was one of those moments where I just looked at him when I seen Dustin a little while after I stopped up and seen him. And I just remember like giving him a big hug. And I'm like, dude, I didn't think we'd ever do it. Like we'd ever bring our boys home. Like we brought my whole gun section home. No one got hurt. A couple of close calls, including myself, but no one died. I mean, I was close. I still got the bullet. That motherfucker around Baghdad was shooting at me in the ring mount. I remember Dustin was up front in the truck. We were riding in the ammo truck because every gun truck has an ammo truck that follows.
Mm-hmm.
And they just needed some guys to go back there. And I was like, I'll ride the ring mount. I'll let you sit up front instead of sitting in the back of our truck. I'm up there and I'm like, dude, I think he's shooting at me. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, they're zipping and popping. He's like, dude, they're fucking shooting. I remember looking down at him from the ring mount because he's below me. It's like sitting right here to my right. I was like, dude, if he hits me, I get to go home first. And he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, I want real cigarettes. These Haji cigarettes suck ass, because they would literally, as you lit them, they were so fine at tobacco, the cherry would just fall out.
Yeah.
They were like Sumer, blue pack, and they were spelled Sumer. So I'd say Sumer maybe. And that was the only ones you could get. And I remember going, I just want a real fucking cigarette. He's like, really, dude? And I remember him yanking me down, and we got just up to Baghdad. You've seen stuff kick up on the top of the truck, and he goes, are you going to? I was like, dude, I gotta piss. So I go back by the truck. He comes down, he goes, hey, motherfucker, that was your hip. Here's this fucking round he dug out of the ring mount. It was where my hip was.
No shit.
He's like, you would have gone home. I was like, you're stuck with me. I'm like an STD dude. I'm herps for life.
Yeah, man.
But that was the hard part. Seeing some of like I had another friend. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he was a tough motherfucker. Golden Glove boxer from New York, straight, just like OG.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the streets of New York, you wouldn't have fucked with this dude. First house we come up to, we're patrolling. It was like a farmhouse. They started shooting at us. And this tough motherfucker got scared and shot his rifle at the ground, and it ricocheted, caught me in the ankle, ripped my boot open. I'm like, dude, like he was in my squad. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, that wasn't me. I'm like, you got a round sticking out of your breech. It's stovepiped. Well, that wasn't me. I'm like, you just shot your rifle and it just hit me in the ankle. I'm trying to stay calm as fuck because he's like panicking. And I remember getting back and Dustin's like, why are you limping? I was like, I'll tell you later. He's like, what? I was like, dude, this guy could get court-martialed for like friendly fire. He's like, are you going to report it? And I'm like, no. I was like, I'm not really bleeding. I just got a big bruise and like some purple. And I look at that and it broke the skin. But nothing I was going to report. I'm not going to get this guy in trouble.
Right.
But some of the toughest guys, under that kind of pressure just snap. And then
they buckle.
Oh, yeah. So like I think the biggest moment wasn't the war. My biggest moment was bringing those motherfuckers home.
Yeah.
That was my moment. So that, to your question of over there, what was the moment? It wasn't there.
It was
watching them get on the fucking plane, knowing it wasn't a letter I had to write home, wasn't a bag I had to pack for them. It was bringing them home. That was my moment. There's a guy named David Sports. I called him Sporty Spice. Real pretty boy. He was E3. He still calls me every Marine Corps birthday. Hey, Sergeant. Love you, man. I appreciate everything you did. And happy birthday, Marine. It's hard to say because, like, you didn't look at it like you did something big.
Right.
But to him, it was the world. Like, you did all these things for these kids that they love you for. But when you hear it, you don't really think about it until they say it. And like right now, I'm tearing up a little bit because I love those kids. And for him to reach out to me and like Tobin to reach out to me and be like, yo, happy birthday, Corporal. And he's like, Sergeant, I meant Sergeant, sorry. But like, they loved you.
Yeah.
Like you were their big brother, your dad. And then when they tell you like the shit you did, you're just like, you didn't see it that way. But to them, you were the world.
You were just doing what you were supposed to do.
Right. And it hit you when you came home. Yeah. Because like years later, it still hits me sometimes when they say it and you're just like, you take pride in it, but at the same time, it hits real hard because some of these guys I ain't ever going to see again. I still talk to them. I still see them on Facebook, but I ain't got that kind of money to fly around. They ain't got that money kind of fly around to see each other.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part because you make that brotherhood and you always talk about how you're going to get back together and hang out. It never happens.
Yeah.
You might see one or two of them unless you get to a unit reunion, and half the time some can make it, some can't.
Well, you got that bond, man, and that bond will last you forever, man.
I know.
You know?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Well, look, Chad, from the bottom of my heart, man, I thank you for everything you did, and I appreciate you coming out here and giving us some stories and whatnot, man. Hopefully I get to do this again.
Oh, dude, anytime you're in town, know that.
I mean, I love you to death, Bubba. I really do. And thanks so much, man. So,
appreciate it, brother.
Any final words for anybody out there?
Don't be ashamed. If you need help, people are a phone call away. And if somebody's telling you, man, I'm okay, I'm just having a down moment, sometimes you don't have to say nothing. Just be there. That's all they need is an ear. Sometimes just a vent.
Yep.
But I don't really got anything else for you, bud.
Well, for you guys listening, like he said, you guys have any problems, anything, don't hesitate. Drop a comment, man. I'll get to you. If you want to talk to Chad, I'll get you hooked up with him, man. So you need somebody to talk to, hit that 988, man. I'm telling you, you're not alone. There's people here that want to help you and get you to where you need to get, man. Clear your mind, help you push a little bit further than you need to go. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Chad, brother. I love you to death, man. Thanks for coming out.
No problem, man. Thank
All
you.
right. Peace.